Or missing person, because I don't know.
This one's going to be an unsolved murder.
Oh no.
Hmm. So
Okay.
let's jump right in. We are already in Ohio. I really feel like this season has flown by, even though we are only doing one a week. I can't believe we're already in the O's.
I was thinking the same thing. I thought that whenever we started season 3, we're like, oh, it's gonna take us obviously 50 weeks. That's almost a year. And it's insane that we're in the O's. So
Hmm. So let's just talk about it. My case takes place in Fairfield, Ohio. It is a town of 42,000 roughly. Now, they didn't have the 2020 stats on Wikipedia. It was the 2010 stats, but around 42,000. It's located just 25 miles north of Cincinnati, and it was home to several indigenous tribes, but mostly the Shawnee and Miami. But there were also evidence of the Hopewell and Adena peoples around the city. Now, when people started coming into the city and building out their farmlands back in the early settler days, a lot of the relics from these two peoples were destroyed, and that kind of makes me sad.
oh, that does suck.
But there is still some evidence of them in the outlying areas.
Okay.
Fairfield has over 300 acres of green space for recreational activities. They're real big on outdoorsy stuff. It's a primarily agricultural community, but in the 50s, a manufacturing division of General Motors came in and established themselves there. And the city kind of began to build out a little bit more industrial feel. Now, unfortunately, in the late 80s, General Motors phased out this plant,
Oh,
and it caused thousands of jobs to be lost, millions of dollars in tax revenues. But eventually, the economy would restabilize by the mid 90s. It was just a kind of a brief recession in the history of Fairfield. The headquarters of Cincinnati Financial Corporation, Skyline Chili, which I've never heard of, and Ohio Casualties made Fairfield their home, and that kind of helped build that back up. I pulled some crime statistics because this is a very, what feel like is a small, safe kind of community. It seems very quaint.
it
It,
does look like that, definitely. It looks larger than the population you said, just by looking at how this kind of scenery going around on this picture.
Mhm.
But yeah.
I just feel that maybe the lots are larger, so you've got it's more spread out.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. 'Cause I was like, it looks like it's going on forever.
The chances of becoming a victim of violent crime are 1 in 473, which is significantly lower than Ohio as a whole and almost half the national average. So it is a fairly safe community to live in. Unfortunately, though, I could not find any fun facts about Fairfield other than its proclivity for green spaces. You're from there or know anything about it, please let us know something fun about it or something you enjoyed other than they really like green belts. This is the unsolved murder of 15-year-old Chelsea Johnson. Chelsea was always smiling and full of life. Her mother, Vicky, said Chelsea didn't know a stranger and was very outgoing. She was a freshman at the Fairfield Options Academy, and this is more of a magnet type school. It was very, oh, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Selective?
Project based. Yeah. And
Okay.
they had a lot of options to where if you wanted to go into a specific role, more kind of a technical high school, I guess you
Okay.
could consider. Are those called magnet schools?
They do. We have a ton of them here in the Tampa area.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was more that than a traditional public high school. She hadn't gone to school there very long. I believe she transferred over there in January, but she enjoyed it. She even worked as a cashier. They had a little store there where if you wanted snacks or if you needed school supplies, I feel like it was very college kind of feel.
Yes.
They had the co op there that you could go in if you needed any sort of supplies or a snack. I think they even sold things like hot dogs, corn dogs, little easily cooked items.
Yeah, I love it. I think high schools should do that. Hey, let's earn a
Yeah,
little revenue for these public schools.
right? And I mean, the footprint of it doesn't have to be very large, and it
No.
provides a employment opportunity for kids that may not be
Hmm.
able to get a regular job outside of school hours.
Yeah,
It's
exactly. I
almost
love
like
it.
we had the work program when I was in high school, and so if you were a senior, you could go to your classes the first half of the day, get out at noon, and then go
Yes.
to work, but you'd have to prove that you actually had a job. This could
Mhm.
be an option for even younger
Yeah,
people if
exactly.
maybe 1 to 2 periods of the day instead of taking, I don't want to say useless extracurriculars, but sometimes you don't need those credits.
Yeah, it'd be the same thing as being a TA for the office or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree. I think it's a good idea.
She wanted to be a veterinarian and she loved animals. Even had, I believe, 2 hamsters and a cat. She was an animal person, loved to be outdoors. Fishing, camping, and reading were all her favorite things. She had a Kindle with over 4,000 books, which for a 15-year-old, I feel that
Mhm.
that's a lot of books. Even I, who love to read, I don't think I've have 4,000 books readily available at any given time.
Well, no, I only have 10 because that is what the Kindle Unlimited allows me to have.
Okay, yes.
But especially at 15, I was not a reader until after I graduated high school.
Mhm.
And I was very proud of my streak. I went like something like 57 weeks in a row with reading a book every single week. But that's nothing compared to this
Yeah.
girl.
And she had that typical teenage kind of genre. She was obsessed with Twilight, which is,
Oh gosh.
and this was in the early 2010s, it was
Love it.
2012, so we all went through the Twilight phase,
We
I feel.
did. We really did. My husband's going to make fun of me now.
Yep, 100% we're gonna get made fun of, but that's okay. Vicky also fondly remembers how she would always find notes from Chelsea that says she loved her. She liked to leave little notes everywhere for those, and she never would leave the room without telling someone she loved them. So she just had a big heart.
Oh.
The morning of Sunday, April 15th, 2012, was a brisk spring morning. A low of 43, but a high of 63 was expected when Chelsea left the house that morning. She was wearing black shorts, a red tie-dye t-shirt, and black flip-flops when Vicky talked to her that morning. Vicky had come home around 11:30 from her work lunch break, and her mom worked in home healthcare. So she came home, was making grilled cheese sandwiches for Chelsea and her younger son Brian. I believe Brian was 11 at the time. So not quite old enough to be home alone, but it's right there on the cusp. I guess it kind of depends on the maturity level of this kid, whether he could be left alone.
Definitely, yes.
After making these sandwiches, Vicky talked to Chelsea, and Chelsea was headed out the door saying she's going to run to the convenience store, which is a very common thing. I mean, she was 15. She walked out the door, it was just less than a mile away to go and grab some snacks or whatever it is that kids like to grab at convenience stores these days. And she said, "Mom, I love you. I'll see you later." Nothing out of the ordinary. That store had CC television. They saw Chelsea came in with a neighbor. She did make it there. That neighbor purchased a prepaid phone card and then they left together. The attendant that was working that day recognized the neighbor but didn't know his name. But it didn't
Okay.
seem anything out of the ordinary. There was no animosity there or anything to throw up any red flags for him. He just said they came in, bought a prepaid phone card, and left. And that's what the CCTV footage
Is he a
corroborates.
teenager as well, this neighbor?
Unsure because
Okay.
they never named this neighbor. That's the last timestamp we have.
She didn't buy anything. She just
Nope,
was with
she was with
the
the neighbor. Hmm.
and he bought the phone card and then that was
Hmm.
it. Okay.
Hmm. Vicky returned to work after her lunch break, and at 5:15, when she got off the clock, she came back home. Normal Sunday for her work schedule, nothing out of the norm. When she got home, Tim, who is another neighbor, who is a neighbor, I don't know if
Okay.
this is the same neighbor that was at the convenience store or not, was in her home.
Okay.
She found this strange. He was sitting on her couch. She found this strange because one, why are you in my house? Two, you don't have a key to the house, and no one
Mhm.
else was home. Chelsea was not home. Her son was not home, which I believe her son had somewhere he had to be, practice or something like that. It wasn't weird that her son wasn't home, but
How old is this neighbor?
39.
Oh, crap. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Gotcha.
Hmm.
That is definitely weird. I would have a the massive problem with that and probably be calling the police.
Well, she said, "Where's Chelsea?" And he said, "Oh, she's at the store." So of course, a red flag immediately goes up and Vicky's like, "What the heck? Like she was at the store at noon. Did she forget something? Why would she be back just a few hours later?
And
This doesn't
why would he be hanging out with a 15-year-old?
exactly." Even if they were hanging out, or why would she leave him at their house alone?
Yeah. Or why is he at the house with her if she was there then? Which is
Lots
even
of
more
questions.
weird. Everything
Lots of
is weird.
questions. So he leaves, whatevs, and now Vicky's just more concerned about Chelsea than this dude. So that kind of
Mm.
just leaves her mind, and she's like, okay, where is Chelsea? Surely she's still not at the store. Maybe she's with some friends. I don't know. She's always been a responsible child at this
Mhm.
point. They were very open. She never hid anything from her mom. And so of course, as any parent would do, she begins to call Chelsea's cell phone. This is 2012. Cell phones exist.
I was gonna ask, but you never know people's economic status if they're able to have and
Sure.
everyone pretty much has a cell phone, but yes. Okay,
Sure.
good. Cell phone is a good lead.
She calls Chelsea's phone. It goes unanswered. She calls as many as 4 times with no answer. She then attempts to call any of the friends' phone numbers that she has. Where could Chelsea possibly be? Who would she be with? Again, this is kind of unusual for her to not tell her where she's at, and on top of not answering her phone. It's all kind of strange for her. Was not
That
able to locate anyone.
that brings up a very good point because I don't necessarily know if I have like the kids my kids hang out with's phone number. I have their
hmm
parents,
hmm
but I don't necessarily have theirs. I might want to change that.
I feel like that's something as parents you should really consider. And I know it seems kind of strange to say, oh, I have these other teenagers' phone numbers. But in the event that your kid is hanging out with them, especially at the age where they're off doing things alone, I mean, they're not going to be chaperoned at 15 to 16 years old. They're going to be going to the movies, going to the mall, going to the convenience store, things like that. That's a total
Mhm.
normal thing for kids to do.
Yes, and in case anything like this happens, if your kid's not answering their phone,
hmm
you need those phone numbers. And yes, you could call the parents, but like you said, 15, 16, they might not be with their
hmm
parents and you need their phone numbers.
And if it's like our children who seem to never want to charge their phones,
Yeah, they
you
get better. As they get older, they
they
get better
do.
because they want their phone with them. Yes,
True. You never know when it's going to die. I mean,
exactly.
it's just one of those things because they are always on them
Yes.
and seem to always forget the charger because they have to steal yours yet again because they've lost
Every
yet another
free,
one.
freaking time. I'm like,
Yes.
I'm just done.
After calling all these friends, calling Chelsea, there's no answer. She has no idea where Chelsea could be. Maybe she's at a friend's house. She does start to worry. She it's getting late. She has a sleepless night because like so many people in this world, she feels she can't contact police officers until 24 hours have passed. It's a common misconception that you can't report someone missing for until they've been gone for 24 hours.
Yes, and the brother, I'm assuming he came home, no
Mhm.
problem,
Yep.
and I'm sure she
There's
asked him,
no
like, "Did
Mhm.
you see your sister?" Okay. I have experienced a missing child for a moment in time, and it literally was 15 minutes before I called the police.
Mhm.
So
Now,
definitely don't wait.
whether the police act on it or not, that's a completely different story, but don't hesitate to make the phone call to police and saying, "I can't get a hold of my child. This is very inconsistent with their behavior." Even if it
Yeah.
is consistent with their behavior, I think that you absolutely should make a phone call if you feel nervous
Yes.
about it.
Yeah, and this is gonna sound shitty of me, but I really think you should just lie and say it's inconsistent with their behavior because
Sure.
police, the procedure is if they're known to be a runaway, that's how they're gonna treat it. And this
Mhm.
one time, they might not be a runaway, and you don't
Sure.
want those hours to go by.
Playing devil's advocate here, the resources needed from police departments to follow up on every single phone call saying it's been 15 minutes, my kid is late, or my kid isn't answering, or even it's just been an hour. The resources that police departments would need to follow up on that would be astronomical. And I mean, police are already over or understaffed as is. They're overworked as is. As a mom, I expect them to follow up when my kid is 5 minutes late because I'm like you. Within 15
Mhm.
minutes, I'd be calling the police. Knowing the logistics of that would be difficult for many departments.
Oh, I
But
agree.
that's just me playing devil's advocate with a statement of I don't know how logical it could possibly be.
And I think it definitely depends on the circumstances as well. Mine was very, very different. 30 police were there within 15 minutes. However, yeah, my child could be with friends, she's not
Mhm.
home. I definitely agree it's different and every case needs to be taken differently. There needs, if it's under 18, even under 21, I really feel like processes need to be in place to at least do something when they're reported versus just assuming they're a runaway.
Hey shoppers, this is your local farmer letting you know that Florida watermelon is in season. Oh,
Point. And
Meeting. She went up there. Chelsea had not showed up for school the next day. And this is where Vicky begins to panic.
oh no, this just breaks my heart for
Mhm.
Vicky.
She calls the police and makes the missing persons report at around 9 o'clock in the morning. Vicky says that this is the biggest regret and biggest mistake she's ever made in her
Oh,
life was waiting the 24 hours, and that breaks my heart for her.
that breaks my heart too, because I am sure she's going over every possible scenario, what she could have done, what she should have done differently. And oh man, I just,
And I'm sure she will forever beat herself up over it.
yes.
The police do begin investigating once she makes this missing person report, and Vicky gathers everyone in the neighborhood that is willing to help to search for Chelsea, knowing that she was in the vicinity last time she was seen. Ground zero, that's where you start, and then you work your way out. So
Hmm.
Tim, the neighbor that was sitting on the couch from the day before, obviously offers his assistance, but then suddenly he remembers that Chelsea said she went to the store, but what he really meant was she said she wanted to go fishing in a creek behind a Heritage Glen apartment complex. Suddenly, the story has changed on where he was and he was the last person to see Chelsea alive, supposedly.
He said that she came home from the convenience store after the mom went back from lunch at
Hmm.
some point, and
Said she
she,
wanted to go fishing
oh,
in this very specific creek behind Heritage Glen apartments.
oh
Now,
Lord.
this apartment complex was mostly abandoned at the time. It had just changed ownership and they were in the process of basically gutting and remodeling it. There was only maybe 3 or 4 people that lived in a 228 unit complex.
This was not the apartment complex that she lived in, though.
Correct. This is a
Okay, this is
completely
a
different
different one.
complex.
Gotcha.
It's less than 2 miles away.
Okay.
So she could walk essentially to go
Mhm.
fishing in this creek or in this
Did she have
creek.
fishing supplies? Were
She
those
loves to
missing?
do it. Well, she loves to do that. I don't know that they checked at this very moment that that's what she was doing.
Okay.
They checked to see if she had taken anything. But because it was, hey, she said she was going to go fishing, it was all hands on deck. People jumped in vehicles to go to this location
And
because
search.
someone mentioned it. It was a
Yeah.
lead. So
Yeah.
they
She could
ran
have
with it.
fallen.
Yep.
Anything could have happened. Hey, she got bit by a snake. Let's go check. Yes.
Yeah, it was just this is a lead, we gotta go. A red flag goes up for Vicky when he says this because this creek is actually more than a stream than a creek. The likelihood of fish being in it was slim because the water levels are low. But regardless, she was happy for some information. Let's figure it out from there.
Yeah.
I read multiple articles, and some call this gentleman Chelsea's stepfather, some call him Vicky's boyfriend. So I don't know if it was her a boyfriend that Chelsea recognized as a stepfather figure. I'm not sure what his title was, but his name was Monty.
Okay. So
Monty.
this wasn't the
Yep.
neighbor. Okay. I thought
Nope.
you were saying he was the neighbor, and I'm
No, no,
like,
no.
well, okay. Gotcha.
No, no, no. Vicky's
Boyfriend.
significant other
Yes.
at the time, Monty, jumped into his vehicle. Her brother Brian jumped into the vehicle, and Tim, the guy on
Okay.
the couch, they hustle over to where this creek is, and what they find there is what no loved one should ever find.
Oh.
This is Pleasant Run Creek, and what they found there was absolutely heartbreaking. Just 9 hours after she had been reported missing, and less than 2 miles from her house, Chelsea's body was found brutally stabbed to death next to this creek. Some people say she was in the creek, some people say she was next to the creek. Regardless, she was found murdered.
Hmm.
Her shoes and phone were thrown haphazardly around her lifeless body. Monty said it looked as though her body had been dumped there, and Vicky was recorded as saying, quote, "It's like someone just laid her body down and left my baby there."
This is horrible.
Her body was taken for autopsy, where her cause of death was determined to be from the stabbing, and it was classified immediately as a homicide. The coroner said there were no visible signs at the time that she was sexually assaulted, but further testing would need to be done.
Okay. Ugh.
Law enforcement pulled phone records, of course, to see who Chelsea was talking to at the time. Maybe a friend was out there with her fishing. Maybe where do we go from here? We have a body.
Phone is the first thing to check.
Yep, absolutely. They find some text messages between Chelsea and George Donald Davis II. He was 24 at the time, so much, much older than Chelsea. He was known as an acquaintance of the family, but it never really said how. The mom recognized a picture of him when presented with a picture of him, but she never really described the relationship to the family, just that he was known. In a text conversation that lasted for well over 2 hours, which is a very long text conversation. I don't know that you and I have even texted for 2 hours
Like
at
just
one
straight back and
specific
forth.
time.
Yes.
Yeah. Davis offered Chelsea drugs in exchange for sex. At first, it started as prescription drugs, but then escalated to what he called dog, which apparently is street slang for heroin. I'd never heard that before, so that's a new one for me. He has a history of illegally possessing a handgun, disorderly conduct, criminal damage, and misdemeanor assault. These are all things he had been convicted of in the past.
So, not a great guy by any freaking means.
No. I'm still trying to figure out how they were acquaintances at this point.
That would be really nice to know. But I don't want the mom to have known him and brought him around, because then that she would feel even worse.
But I couldn't find anything related as to how these two were connected, especially in a text exchange. I mean, up until this point, there was no information out there that Chelsea was hanging out with unsavory characters, or that she had these demons in her past. Nothing about Chelsea's, everything was positive. She was a good kid. She came home when she was supposed to come home. She wanted to be a veterinarian. That's a very ambitious
profession.
Goal.
Yeah. I
at
agree.
15. Even after this text exchange, he was not listed as a suspect. They classified him as a person of interest.
Okay.
Which to me isn't good enough.
Well, did he have like the best alibi ever? He was in a coma in the hospital.
Couldn't find anything about an alibi.
Okay.
Only thing I could find out there was that toxicology reports about any drugs or alcohol being in Chelsea's system were pending, but I could never find if they ever released the findings of said report. I think they're kind of holding on to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are using that to corroborate that the exchange did actually occur and that Chelsea did have some drugs in her system or not. Whether or not, maybe these weren't even for Chelsea. Maybe it was for a friend. Who knows? Because there was no indications as to Chelsea having these drug demons in her past. Davis would be arrested on charges of importuning and drug trafficking. He was later indicted on felony charges of trafficking in heroin, importuning, and of course, compelling prostitution at this point.
Oh, I was going to be like soliciting. I would throw many other charges. A minor for any of that?
That's another thing, is why was some sort of statutory charges?
Yes.
She was underage. So why is there nothing regarding that on here? Which maybe we know we can get these three. We can throw these other things on here, but you know what? These three, we have solid evidence we can put him away for.
Get him behind bars and then conduct the investigation going forward. I get you. Okay.
Sure. He eventually would plead guilty to all of these charges, but he was never charged with anything related to Chelsea's murder. At that time, was the only person named in connection with Chelsea's death, because he was one of the last people known to talk with her.
Yes. I mean, in my mind, there's still two other suspects. Guy on the couch And then boy she went to the store with. That's
Now,
different person.
there's no articles out there that say they're two different people or say that they are the same person.
Okay.
There's no way to corroborate any of that at this
Mhm.
point. Tim was at some point, he was investigated, he was talked to, they did interview him, but that's it. I
Okay.
never saw that he was listed as a person of interest or that he was definitively cleared.
Now, when police say someone is cleared, I don't even necessarily believe that because I
Mhm.
think they do that as try to be like, "Oh yeah, you're good," so that the people would go and make a mistake. So I don't even
Sure.
trust that.
Sure. 2 years pass and nothing happens. So Chelsea's case goes cold very quickly because they have nothing or they've not released anything to the public
Mhm.
to pin on
It
anyone.
just seems like there should be something in this. It
Mhm.
wasn't random. This wasn't a random thing.
They did not say that they found a murder weapon. They did not say there's nothing out there related to
Mhm.
it. The fact that Tim said this location and she was at this location is a massive red flag for me.
Yes, I am gonna, especially because the story changed.
Mhm. But again, nothing ever I could not find anything related to Tim's involvement except that exchange.
Hmm.
After 2 years, Vicky, in tandem with the Fairfield Police Department and the Sheriff's Department, she all kind of got together and she had an investigation built. She built an investigation with these two teams and she even had to have a protest outside of the
Well, good for her.
Attorney
Yeah.
General's office in hopes that something could come from it.
Mhm.
The case was eventually presented to a grand jury, and after 2 days of testimonies, no indictments were returned. They could
Mhm.
not find adequate evidence to push forward with any sort of murder charges with this George Davis character or with anyone else connected to the case. Chelsea's case remains cold. Over the last few years, Vicky has been very vocal about the fact that she thinks police are not doing their due diligence. She thinks they botched the investigation from day one, that she can't get any sort of answers in relation to Chelsea's investigation. When she calls them, it takes multiple days for them to call her back. The communication is just not there.
Mhm.
And we see that with a lot of
We
cases.
do. We definitely do.
A new Ohio cold case unit was started in 2020 in hopes to bring light to some of the cold cases in Ohio. One of them being Chelsea's case. There was 3 others listed in the ones that they're mainly focusing on. So if you have any information in regards to the death of Chelsea Johnson, of course, please contact the Fairfield Police Department at 513-829-8201 or the cold case unit supervisor, Roger Davis, at 740-845-2123. You can also email him at roger.davis@ohioago.gov. Now, before we move on to our next case, something that came up multiple times when I was researching Chelsea's murder is that cold cases run pretty rampant there. It's like they can't solve anything in Fairfield.
Yes.
While
Oh,
they
in Fairfield. Oh, okay. I thought you meant
Mhm,
Ohio in general because it has a
sure.
lot.
Yes, it does, which is strange because their numbers are so much lower than the national average. Even
Mhm.
Ohio as a whole has a lower
Crime rate.
crime rate
Yeah.
than the majority of the United States. One thing that came up very prevalent when I
Mhm.
was researching Chelsea's case is the case of missing person Caitlin Markham. Now, she went missing 9 months before Chelsea was murdered, very, very close. I mean, within walking distance to where Chelsea was found.
Really?
Yes. She was a 21-year-old student. She was engaged. And Caitlin's story is just as baffling as Chelsea's. So her fiance reported her missing in the middle of the night. He called 911 to report her missing because it was so out of character for Caitlin. She was a student, which I'm not going to get too into Caitlin's case because it deserves an episode on its own. But he reported her missing, said they didn't have a fight. He doesn't know why she hasn't come home. And she was missing for years. In
Really?
April in April of 2013, Caitlin's skeletal remains were found 33 miles away in Cedar Grove, Indiana. It's a lot of information, but the sheer proximity of her going missing so close to where Chelsea was found murdered, and then Caitlin actually, I mean, her case was changed from a missing persons to a
Uh-huh.
homicide at this point. They could not determine cause of death. It was listed as unknown because they found skeletal remains.
Oh.
And just so many articles I read crossed the two cases as being oddly similar, or it just seems too coincidental that two women could go missing so close to each other, could be murdered so close to each other. Now, serial killer, probably not.
Mhm.
Maybe not. I don't know. Apparently there's 2,000 serial killers
I
active in
know.
America right now at any given day. So I could be completely wrong, but it just seems for a town that seems so safe due to numbers,
Mhm.
why is there so many unsolved cases?
Exactly. That is so it's crazy, definitely.
Mhm. So
Huh.
I have lots of questions in regards to both of these. I hope we can cover Caitlin's case in a future episode, maybe next time we come around to Ohio or as a bonus episode, because her story is just as baffling.
I mean, almost I was as we were talking about Chelsea's case, I'm like, maybe we should do this as a deep dive and go up
Mhm.
there and talk to her mom because it's not getting the attention and almost we could do both of these cases up there.
We should definitely put it on the list for people to talk to. I think that what I've read about Vicky, she would be more than honored. She's done
Mhm.
several vigils for Chelsea. She's done a lot trying to bring awareness. She's doing everything she knows how to. And
Yes.
which is, I mean, that's why we started this is how do we bring awareness to these things that need it? And she needs
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
So
Oh, well, all right. Well,
that's
this was
Ohio.
a crappy Monday, but
Well, I mean,
it's
we talk
yeah.
about how much we love Mondays and how much we love getting these cases out there. They're a bummer every single time, but
Yeah.
they need to be talked about.
They do. We do. Someone knows something about what
Mhm,
happened to Chelsea and what happened to Caitlin,
mhm.
and let's make some noise. Let's get it done.
Yeah. So my call to action is, of course, if you know something, say
And
something.
one local family's hunt for justice is still going strong. 15-year-old Chelsea Johnson was found murdered in Fairfield of April of 2012. Only on Fox 19 now, Jessica Schmidt is live with what her family has to say about the case that remains unsolved.
Well, yeah, like you said, Trisha, her body was actually found in Fairfield, Ohio. But tonight we are live in West Harrison, Indiana, because this is where we sat down with Johnson's mother tonight. She says to her, it feels like this case is going cold, and she desperately wants her daughter's killer to be held accountable. Half a dozen years have passed, and Vicky Feibel's heart hurts just the same.
I'm just fed up. Something's got to be done. 6 years. It's too long. I hope no one has to go through what I've been going through.
Feibel's daughter, Chelsea Johnson, was murdered in April 2012. The 15-year-old was stabbed to death, her body found by a creek behind an apartment complex only miles from her home. Now, she's a face on a poster.
She was a loving, beautiful, caring girl. She made everybody laugh. Everybody.
Right now, no one is charged in her death.
It's frustrating. And I feel like everybody just forgot about her.
The last public development came in November 2016. The Butler County Sheriff's Office announced they had a person of interest in the case. Feibel says she's heard nothing new since then, and she's angry.
That's not fair to me, my daughter, my family.
Call it mother's intuition or gut instinct. Feibel firmly believes she knows who took her daughter's life.
Shame on you. Chelsea's looking down at you and just, really? You knew me? Really? I hope she haunts him. I hope she haunts him bad.
This man, George Donald Davis II,
I don't know.
This one's going to be an unsolved murder. To both of these, I hope we can put it on the list for people.
She made everybody laugh. Everybody.
right now, no one is charged in her death.
It's frustrating. And I feel like everybody just forgot about her.
The last public development came in November 2016. The Butler County Sheriff's Office announced they had a person of interest in the case. Feibel says she's heard nothing new since then, and she's angry.
That's not fair to me, my daughter, my family.
Call it mother's intuition or gut instinct. Feibel firmly believes she knows who took her daughter's life.
Shame on you. Chelsea's looking down at you and just, really? You knew me? Really? I hope she haunts him. I hope she haunts him bad.
This man, George Donald Davis II,
All right, I'm here, y'all. I'm gonna give it a second to see if it catches up because there was an end to the video. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, now you can hear me. Sorry about that. There is an end to the video. I'm gonna give it a second to see if it's gonna pick up. I don't know what's going on. It may have cut me off. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. Well, let me take him down. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Apologize if you can hear the TV in the background. It's turned down low, so hopefully it's low enough you guys can't hear it. But I did want to share Chelsea Johnson's story with you guys tonight. The story was brought to my attention in our chat earlier, and it really touched my heart. And I mean, here lately we've been seeing some crazy stuff coming out of Ohio, so I felt like it was important to bring her story back around to the community. And, you know, still, like FARQ says here on screen, 11 years, still no justice. So, you know, it's sad. It's really, really, really sad what these families go through and have to be their own investigators and fight with law enforcement and fight with the justice system and still don't get any justice. You know, criminals walk free, innocent men sit behind bars. We can all sit around and bitch and complain about how broken the system is, but if we don't do something about it, you know, you see a petition floating around, sign it. Sign it. It takes 2 seconds to share it. Hello, Jocelyn. Welcome in. Thank you for coming in. Welcome to the family as a subscriber. We do a little bit of everything around here, go down rabbit holes, missing cases, murder, corruption, no justice, live chats, chills, just a little bit of everything. But thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for everybody that came in and listened. Thank you for anybody that comes in on replay crew. I appreciate it. Big thank you to FARQ for always being here and being a great mod and making sure that she keeps me in line. Big shout out to Crime Curious for coming in and hanging out with us. She come in, I know it's late, and she's already been live and put on a really amazing Harmony live, guys. So if you aren't subbed up, make sure you sub up to her and go over and check out Harmony Montgomery. She's another one that didn't get justice, still waiting on justice, failed by the system. But as always, guys, it is 2 o'clock in the morning here in beautiful, sunny, dark Florida, and I am going to probably go outside and sit on the back patio for a little while and wind down, and then probably come back in and creep around the YouTube streets for a little bit longer and take my little self to sleep. Like I said, 2 a.m. in PA. Oh, yeah. East Coast. All right. Thank you again for coming in, Jocelyn. I appreciate it. Welcome all new subscribers to the family. I don't go live often. I'm kind of a pop-up live kind of girl. Here, guys, give me just a second. That would be because I muted myself. Thank you. Yeah, so life happens live and I mute myself a lot. But thank you for being here. I'm going to start over again. Thank you, FarQ, for being here. That's our Aussie Awesome mod, and she's always here. And Jocelyn, I am in Florida. And FarQ, she can tell you where she if she feels comfortable where she is exactly. And we're just a big family here. I do a lot of uploads, premieres. I do a lot more premieres. It's kind of crazy in the background. Normally, I've got dogs and family and whatnot. So premieres are a lot more, I guess, streamlined for me because I tend to get on the lives and just kind of it goes everywhere. But as always, guys, thank you so much for being here, and make sure that you are subscribed and hit that bell. Make sure you hit the bell and share out this video so we can share Chelsea's story and get her name out there and get her face out there, and maybe we can give law enforcement a little bit of a little push to maybe charge somebody so her family can have closure. But don't miss tomorrow because I'm going to try to have something Florida Salt Life for you guys because it's my birthday. And last year we went to the springs and saw the monkeys. There are wild monkeys here in Florida. So I will try to have some kind of special treat for you guys tomorrow, maybe, possibly. Do my best. And if you didn't already catch my video, and if you would please, guys, go check out the video I did for Monkey Michael Vaughn today. He is still missing, or yesterday, June 24th was his 7th birthday, and he's a special little man to my heart. And, you guys know how I feel about Monkey, and Jocelyn, you're new, so you will be well aware who Monkey is if you hang around. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everybody. I know I say that about 20 times before I actually decide to depart for the evening.
Isn't that special?
My childhood hero there I had to share with you guys. But I'm out. And remember, if you see something, say something. It takes a village to raise a child. Never give up. And be a voice.